Good evening, I'm Ces Orenia Drilon.
I'm Pauline Verzosa.
And I'm Sean Yao.
The big stories tonight. Former President Rodrigo Duterte remains overseas as reports of an arrest warrant against him continue to swirl. Now there are concerns he may not return to the Philippines altogether.
The Transportation Department fires 3 airport security personnel over a suspected tanimbala or bullet planting incident flagged by a senior citizen and her daughter.
And the Masungi Georesearch Foundation claims it was kept in the dark by the DENR when the agency scrapped a contract with the ecotourism site's developer.
And before we go to our top story, is the Tanimbala extortion scheme back at the NAIA? President Marcos Jr. wants the latest incident of alleged bullet planting there investigated. Transportation Secretary Vince Dizon, for his part, has gone ahead and fired 3 of the airport personnel supposedly involved in the scheme. Here's the rest of that story.
The latest tanimbala or bullet planting incident at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport has gotten Malacanang's attention. Palace Press Officer Attorney Claire Castro says the president has ordered a thorough investigation to the allegations.
Bala, saan dito bala?
Wala naman.
Pakiano niyo po? Wait lang. Rosary.
In a social media post that has gone viral, 69-year-old Ruth Adele said she and her family almost missed their flight after NAIA security claimed they have an X-ray image of an anting-anting or amulet in the form of a bullet casing inside their luggage. This came as they were about to board their flight to Vietnam last March 6.
Teka lang, ano pa? Ano?
May report po kayo.
That's too much po. That's too much.
That's too much.
Mami,
O baka ito. Pang-ano ko to sa ilong.
However, a physical inspection of the said bag did not yield any bullet casing.
Yes or no? So hindi nga po kami.
yung last day ko lang kaming x-ray dito ma'am para hindi namin ma-double check yung gamit ko. Empty shell, parang alam ko na, di ba ano naman yan talaga?
Kalakaran.
The personnel were also caught in video making fun of the situation.
So hindi nga kami.
This led the family to seek the help of Senator Raffy Tulfo in his Wanted sa radyo program.
Hindi sila nag-sorry, hindi nag-apologize.
Tinatanong na po namin sila, bigla lang po silang tumalikod. Pero before that, nung sinabi po ng mother ko na susumbong ko kayo kay
Kay Sir Tulfo, sabi nung ganun. Ang Sir Rapi, sabi ko
tumawa pa po.
Tulfo in turn pressed the Transportation Department to ask the NAIA personnel involved to issue an apology to the Adele family.
Again, sir, for the second time. So, kailangan po may apology letter na matanggap.
Opo, we will send the apology letter po formally from me and Undersecretary Bisnar.
Para maklaro sila kasi mali mo, baka mamaya kung wala apology letter in the future, pwede gamitin against them.
Tama po.
Transportation Secretary Vince Dizon has since fired 3 personnel from the Office of Transportation Security for this incident.
I hate to do this. Okay? Alam ko mahirap mawagan ng trabaho. Lalo na ngayon. Napakahirap ng buhay. Pero, sana po, we are sending a message loud and clear to everyone in government and everyone in the DOTR. Everyone in the airport.
The Korean fraudster who escaped after attending a court hearing at Quezon City in March 4 was re-arrested. CCTV footage showed Ikyon boarding Bureau of Immigration's van with 2 immigration officers. He had no handcuffs and was just dressed casually. And instead of BI's detention facility, the van headed straight to a bar in Quezon City. Subsequent CCTV footage showed him walking outside the bar alone, crossing the street and riding another white van. Yesterday at dawn, BI operatives finally got hold of him in Pampanga. Ikyon was arrested along with another Korean, Kang Chang-dom, who allegedly helped him escape. Now let's discuss this particular rearrest and other issues with the Bureau of Immigration spokesperson Dana Sandoval. Good evening to you, Dana. The BI agents have been fired, correct?
Yes, a total of 3 agents have.
Dana?
We lost you.
Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Go ahead.
Hello? Hi, yes. A total of 3 employees have been terminated. 2 contractual employees have been terminated the day after the incident. And then the third one, who was a permanent employee of the.
How much were they paid?
Did not mention that. We have not yet gotten a clear information on that. But we believe that it might be big money that they were given to them for them to risk their jobs over this.
Okay, can we just confirm that you have fired these 3 personnel? But you also mentioned, spokesperson Sandoval, that the investigation has yet to start. So can you just clarify that timeline for us? Have they been fired before the investigation?
Yes, they have been fired already. The 2 are contractual, so they can be fired immediately. And the third one was fired already by the Department of Justice because the evidence is very clear. After the incident, they reported that the subject was able to escape at the city prosecutor's office in Quezon City while using the restroom. But that evening, our fugitive search unit was able to gather the CCTV footage in the nearby areas and in the vicinity. And we were able to confirm that they were lying. They were lying through their teeth. They even cried during their explanation, but it was all lies. We found out through the CCTV that all the subject and the escorts all boarded the vehicle and went to a bar. And from that bar, the fugitive was able to escape, contrary to what they explained earlier.
Dan, I just wanted to confirm, you said 3 immigration officers were fired. Well, based on the CCTV, only 2 were seen. Sino po yung pangatlo?
The driver was also a contractual, and the other escort was contractual, and the other one was a permanent employee.
Should they not go straight to detention? I mean, pinakawalan nyo pa? Parang caught in the act, right?
Yes, but we filed a case against them already. Apart from the administrative case, and they were fired from their work, we have filed a case against them also under the court for 3 cases because of the loss of custody. And we have also filed the case at the Office of the Ombudsman.
Spokesperson Dana, recently, no, sabi nga ni Senator Risa Ontiveros, what happened? Bakit wala pa ring results on the investigation about how Alice Go et al. Were able to escape? This was in the middle of last year. Would you know, are you guys looking into like these moduses? Is there like a syndicate inside the BI or something like that? What's going on?
With regards to the departure, the illegal departure of Alice Gubo, what we were able to clarify and confirm is that she was not able to pass through formal means, meaning airports and formal seaports where immigration personnel are stationed. So it's clear that she did not pass through immigration. That's why the investigation has already been expanded, not just to include the areas where immigration is stationed or immigration are stationed, but also to include other government agencies that are monitoring areas that might be private or might be areas that might be used to illegally depart the country.
So there will be no accountability when it comes to that because if they just snuck out not through a formal port, seaport or airport, how will we exact accountability and from who?
We cannot say that nobody helped them. It's impossible that she left the country in her own accord, just took a boat on her own and just crossed the Philippine seas without the help of anybody. This is a concerted effort. The fact that you have to cross one country to another, you have to get a boat, look for the area where there are no personnel manning these areas. it's a big preparations are need to be done, and definitely not just one person. We believe that it's a group of people that might have aided Alice Guo. It's not within immigration, but we believe that there are also other people that might be involved in her illegal escape.
Well, Dana, if you're saying that it does not involve the Immigration Bureau, you have Senator Risa Ontiveros saying there needs to be a revamp within BI. So what's your response to that? So hindi naman kailangan kung hindi naman involve ang BI dyan?
Well, we respect the comments and the statements of the good senator, because we see that there really needs to be a bigger investigation on this case. We want to see this through all the way to the end, so we would know who really should be facing the charges because of the illegal escape of Alice Guo. I mean, every time there is illegal departure, it's always immigration that gets blamed for things, despite these individuals not passing.
Dana?
All right, we lost her. And that,
there.
well, Dana, at this point, we would like to thank you for your time. That was Bureau of Immigration spokesperson Dana Sandoval. And now we go to our big story, which is the arrest of former President Rodrigo Duterte, which could happen sooner than later. That's if reports prove true that the ICC has released a warrant through the Interpol to bring him in over criminal charges stemming from the drug war. But will Digong yield just like that? Here's the big story from mobile journalist Kayla Macantan.
Ang balita ko, may warrant daw ako pag... Hindi, totoo. Yung sa ICC or something, matagal na akong hinahabol ng mga
Former President Rodrigo Duterte himself got wind of reports that the International Criminal Court has already issued an arrest warrant against him. The charge, among others, crimes against humanity stemming from his years-long drug war, even before he became chief executive.
Ano man ang kasalanan ko, na ginawa ko man ang lahat sa panahon ko para may konting katahimikan at mapayapa ang buhay ng Pilipino.
Duterte says it again. He's ready to face arrest, which could happen via the Interpol.
Wala tayong magawa hulihin tayo kung ikulong tayo. In the meantime, mag-contribute kayo, baski $5, $10, para paglabas ko sa presuhan, pagawaan ninyo akong monumento katabi ni Rizal.
Duterte recently faced supporters in Hong Kong. This has given rise to suspicions that he may never come back, given that this is the first time in a couple of years that he has flown out of the Philippines. Congressman Joel Chua is among the doubters and also happens to be one of the prosecutors in the impeachment case of Digong's daughter, Vice President Sara Duterte.
Hindi natin alam kung yun po talaga ay yung biyahe nila dun dahil nga po sa talagang official. Quite noticeable, no? Until now ay wala pa rin yung ating dating Pangulo. At kung makikita po ninyo, yung pong crowd po nila doon ay yung KOJC. So hindi naman po talaga yun OFW na pangkalahatan
Former presidential spokesperson Harry Roque was quick to defend his former boss. The House of Representatives considers Roque a fugitive for dodging a detention order released last year over his non-appearance in POGO hearings.
Kinakailangan linawin yung kumakalat na fake news na ang dating Presidente Rodrigo Roa Duterte daw ay tumakas papuntang Hong Kong dahil meron na raw warrant of arrest galing sa ICC. Nasa Hong Kong po ang mag-ama dahil meron pong rally doon sa Hong Kong na dinaluhan ng mga kandidato ng PDP laban. Hindi po yan para tumakas. Sila po ay naroroon para mangampanya.
Roque claims there's indeed an arrest warrant for ex-President Digong, not from the ICC, but from a local court, and it is over a bailable case.
Nagkaroon po ako ng confirmation sa ilang ating mga kaibigan na talagang nagtitipon-tipon ng mga pulis. Now, nakatanggap din po ako ng report galing po sa isang reporter, no, na meron daw po talagang warrant of arrest ang ating Presidente Digong. Ito po daw ay para sa kaso na incitement to sedition.
As expected, the ICC's Office of the Prosecutor is mum on the alleged arrest warrant for Digong. It insisted that confidentiality is a crucial part of their work and is essential to protect the integrity of investigations, victims, and witnesses. A lawyer for drug war complainants, Attorney Cristina Conti, explains the wisdom behind the ICC's confidentiality rule.
Mas pabor ako na hindi mo na i-announce yung warrant. Kasi 'di ba pag ganito na matutunugan mo na o maririnig mo na, talagang may pagkakataong tumakas. Kung gaano pa sabihin na natin na kaputi ang kanyang budhi, yung actions niya at yung bunga ng mga sinasabi niya. Hindi ko nga masabi na napakaganda ng kanyang napakabulaklak ng mga kanyang salita kasi mahilig ding magmura. Yung actions speak louder than words. At para sa amin, yung patayan already calls for trial. At buti nga, hindi namin pinapanawagan na matokhang din siya Yung mismong pinagkait niya sa mga biktima, yun ang hinihiling namin na magkaroon siya ng due process.
As for the palace, it has no news yet as to any warrant for Duterte. Does it think, though, that the former chief executive's overseas trip was a move to evade arrest?
We cannot conclude that there is this propensity on the part of former President Duterte that he would escape, considering he was the one who asked for this. Bakit? Sinabi niya sa Quadcom hearing, handa siya harapin ang ICC. Pinamamadali nga niya yung ICC. Di ba sabi niya, hurry up. At ang sinabi pa niya, tomorrow, bukas na bukas din.
Of course, dahil nag-sign po tayo sa international agreement na yan, we are bound to oblige and to respect that. All these requests, dadaan po kasi talaga yan ng evaluation. No? So, we have to see if all the documents, supporting documents are ready and that the Interpol request is a valid request. And that is the only time that it will be given due course and on that basis, gagalaw na po yung mga ahensya.
Mobile journalist Kayla Macantan, we are One News.
Meanwhile, Bayan Muna Chairman Nery Colmenares fears former President Rodrigo Duterte is a step nearer political asylum now that he's in Hong Kong. We have with us Attorney Colmenares with us now. Magandang gabi po sa inyo. Why do you fear that?
Well, he's there and I know para sa akin, Duterte will not surrender to the ICC. He will fight it out. Despite his bluster na, I'm ready to face the challenge.
The bravado that he
Yes,
showed.
the bravado. So, and China is of course a friend to him. And because the ICC has no control over China, because China is not a state party, therefore, China may accede to his request to asylum if he will apply for asylum. Of course, he can always go back here, knowing that there is no case against him here in the Philippines, although that may change also because a criminal complaint has been filed against him by the CIDG previously.
But no warrant has been yet issued.
Well, if the DOJ will, of course, issue a resolution to file the case, once it's filed in court, of course, a warrant will be issued by the RTC once it's issued. So, either way, there are already, the door is closing for Duterte, and he may, of course, entertain thoughts of an asylum. Of course, we don't know, as the spokesperson of Malacanang said, we don't know what he will do, but we're just saying that it's now open to him, especially since he's there in Hong Kong.
An asylum may take time. Can the Interpol come and swoop in with its warrant?
Without any approval from China, the Interpol cannot do anything because the Interpol has to, yes. For example, even in the Philippines, they would need the blessings of the president here. So either the president orders, there are two agencies that can do that. The DILG, which is, commands the police, and the DOJ, which commands the NBI, both of which can execute warrants. So they would always say that depends on the president. So if the president says arrest him, then they will be the one to execute the warrant together with
In
the Interpol.
another country, overseas, can they do that? If
Oh, no. Here in the Philippines. Overseas, it will be the Interpol and the local police force. And we don't know if China will accede to any request. But under Rule 89 of the ICC may request China or whatever state.
even if they're not signatories or members.
Rule 89 says any state. Of course, the state party, they're expected to cooperate. But the non-state parties is the discretion of the state party. So now, depends the fate of Duterte if it ever happens, if there is a warrant of arrest and there is a request in China, the fate of Duterte now rests on China's perception of what is in the best of its interest. If China thinks it's in the best of its interest to surrender Duterte, then he's gone.
What's your reading? Of course, we must mention that Attorney Colmenares represents 8 families, who were lost members in the drug war.
Yes, our counsel to the families of the victims, we filed a case in the ICC in 2018 for crimes against humanity against President Duterte. Well, what do I expect? Difficult. China always plays its card close to its chest, but in the end, it's always the national interest of China that if China thinks that the international community outrage and so on will not be good, will not be beneficial to its image or
like cuddling somebody who has killed
thousands. That will not sit well with China, especially since China is also being criticized for a similar action.
But it owes a debt of gratitude, would you say, to President Duterte?
It owes a debt of gratitude to Duterte because Duterte practically opened the West Philippine Sea to China way back in 2016. And China was able to form its bases.
And the stance of the present administration is different.
Yes.
So
China owes Duterte a lot. Yes. That's why we're very worried with China intervening in this election and in the next because it has a large interest at stake. The West Philippine Sea is at stake here, so it is not impossible for China to intervene in the election, if only to ensure candidates which will protect or defend China's interest win in this election.
Iba na tayo.
Yeah, sorry about that. We're talking of China.
Yes.
About the warrant, though, we heard about it Saturday. Rappler was the first one to publish it.
Yes.
I think the Manila Times published it. Malacanang was a bit mixed. PCO Secretary J. Ruiz said, yeah, we heard. And then PCO press officer Claire Castro said na wala daw. And pina-check daw niya, so far wala.
Yes.
What do we know about this warrant, Attorney?
Well, the warrant under the Rome Statute, Article 58 and 59, it says that the prosecutor may request for a warrant during the investigation.
Even if it hasn't concluded its investigation.
To assure the appearance of the person in the trial. Now, I think we expect, as counsel of the victims, we expect the investigation to end soon, or if it has already ended. Because the evidence has already piled up. The last Quadcom hearings unearthed a lot of evidence there. And the testimony of Colonel Garma was really devastating for Duterte. It will really cripple his defense in the ICC. So we're hoping and thinking that it's finished now. And the next resort of the ICC or the prosecutor is to ask for that warrant. So we hope that if it is not true that the warrant has been issued today, we still hope that it will be issued very soon.
But what's the point kung nakatakas na?
Yes, well, that's the problem. That's why we pressed Malacanang for some time now. We're saying, why don't you file cases against him locally? Because you cannot hold him.
So that you could have him in custody and deliver him.
Or at least there's a whole departure order in the airport. Labas-masok siya ngayon eh. He can go in and out. That's why there's a fear of an asylum because he can go out anytime.
Could this have been planned way ahead? I mean, this was a plan. If ever there would be a warrant in the offing, go to China.
I think the plans are there. I don't think Duterte's people will not plan for Plan B or Plan C here.
Attorney, is the ICC required to make the issuing of an arrest warrant public Or is it something that is not required to be made public? And kasi may na-float din po na idea na baka summons lang daw po itong ini-issue, hindi pa arrest warrant.
Yes.
Is that a possibility?
There's a confidentiality clause with
Yes.
regards to ICC. They're very confidential about the whole thing. Do they make warrants public? Yeah, Putin was a very public warrant when they issued the warrant against the Russian leader. So it depends on them. However, once the warrant is about to be executed, definitely it will be public. But maybe in the process they will hold it in confidence. But they can also announce it in public. Not to, it
But
depends on them.
obviously there was some kind of leak.
I was thinking about that. It was kind of bizarre that there was a leak.
The timing.
Yes.
Unimpeachable source, supposedly.
I wouldn't put it past Duterte. He has still a lot of supporters. I'm sure there will be generals in the AFP or the PNP who are very loyal to him still. So, yeah, that's why if he
But
asks
the
for
ICC,
political
paano
asylum
naman?
for persecution, we will contest that. He is not being persecuted here. He's a very powerful individual in the Philippines. He has a lot of supporters on the top officials. So, yeah, but the leak could probably be explained with that, if it's true. And the warrant kasi could come from the ICC or from a local court, because there's been a complaint previously. It's pending in the DOJ. So if the DOJ decides to
How
file
long
the
has
case,
it been pending in the DOJ?
more than a month now. It's the sedition charges against him for calling on the people to overthrow, all these things. So yeah, I guess if it's a local warrant, if a case has already been filed in court.
Attorney, I wanted to ask, actually, you mentioned earlier, you asked Malacanang, of course, on behalf of the people you represent, bakit di na lang kayo mag-file ng kaso dito?
Correct.
What did they tell you?
Oh, no, well, they're silent during those things. They say,
They're
well,
also weighing the political repercussions.
that's the
of such a
problem,
move,
because justice should not be weighed on political considerations or even electoral fortunes, right? Because it's justice. These families have been waiting since 2017, 2018. What? It's now 2025. Wala pang hustisya ang mga kaanak nila who were mercilessly killed like chickens during the time of Duterte, and with arrogance and bravado, So, hindi naman fair that political consideration should.
Attorney, what do you make of the entourage that accompanied Mr. Duterte to Hong Kong? We heard that he was accompanied by at least 10 bodyguards, by a team of legal attorneys. His wife, the vice president was there, Sal Panelo was there. I mean, and the timing of it, does the president frequently travel to meet OFWs lately? What do you make of all that?
I don't see him traveling often. Especially, just to meet OFWs. He probably did some campaigning here locally, but I don't see that often too. This is very strange actually. That's why people begin to think the delegation is so large and why the need, But we will find out. If ever Duterte returns, then we will find out. Or whatever he will do in Hong Kong itself. He hasn't returned as far as I know, despite the fact that the rally has been finished yesterday, I think,
May shopping pa siguro magaganap.
I hope not with people's money.
Well, we wanted to ask you about other issues like the PhilHealth funds, but then we'll wait perhaps right before the oral arguments in Baguio.
We're going to have oral arguments on April 29. We are going to have another oral arguments on the Maharlika Corporation, April 22, and we presume it's going to be in Baguio. Maybe sometime before those oral arguments we will do.
And quickly before we let you go, what do the families have to say about this development?
Well, when they heard it, they were very happy because they thought it's true. And we think, we expected that warrant of arrest since last year. We were thinking the investigation has been going on. You know what? It's going on for so long. So.
Only for their hopes to be dashed.
For now, they're still hoping, hoping against hope that it's true. But either way, if I may be allowed to make a prediction, before the half of this year, if this is not true, before half of this year is over, I think there will be a warrant from the ICC. If my expectation, because the fact of the evidence is so strong, the Garma testimony is so strong, and so on. I guess there's no other way but to issue the warrant.
Thank you very much, Attorney Nery Colmenares.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. from one Duterte to another, this time Vice President Sara, who claims to have been scammed in the last elections. While in Hong Kong with her father, the vice president insinuated that she was tricked when she joined and promoted the Uniteam in 2022, when she was running mate to now President Bongbong Marcos. Sara said she has learned her lesson and will no longer endorse candidates for the upcoming midterm elections. She made this remark during a campaign sortie for PDP Laban.
Sabi ko nga sa inyo, nadala na ako, na-scam na ako, nabudol na ako. Hindi ako mag-endorso ng kandidato. Kasi baka pagkatapos ng eleksyon, sasabihin nyo na naman, na-scam ba yung Inday Sara dahil sa iyo? Ang gagawin ko para sa inyo, sasabihin ko, ano ba ang kailangan nating gawin as voter?
The vice president also joked about killing. She likewise hinted at a possible run in the presidential elections come 2028.
Sir, pakihanap nga yung inutusan ni Marcos na patayin yung aking... Yan. Dahil sa mga ganyan, nakakasuhan ako eh. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. Dahil kayo lang po ang sumusuporta sa OVP, ang buong gobyerno po ay iniwanan na po ang OVP. Sa boto ninyo noong nakaraang halalan noong 2020, at sa susunod na halalan sa 2020, joke lang. Joke. Sandali lang.
In response to Sara's soundbite of "Nabudol ako," Palace Press Officer Claire Castro replied with, quote, "Pa-victim." Castro then turned the tables on the vice president, saying it was Duterte who left the Uniteam hanging.
Is it not the other way around? Hindi naman po siguro inakala din ng miyembro o ng mga miyembro ng Uniteam na mabilis magagastos ni VP Sara yung 125 million pesos na confidential funds in just 11 days. Yan na naman po ang nais naman nilang iparating. Maging kaawa-awa ang OVP, maging kaawa-awa ang Vice President. Wala pong nang iwan sa kanya, baka po siya po ang nang iwan sa gobyerno.
Right, we're going to take a quick break, but coming up next, what's the next legal move of Masungi's developer after being ordered to vacate the ecotourism destination? We speak to the GIA Reserve's managing trustee, Ann Dumaliang, when the big story returns. Keep it here.
You're watching The Big Story here on One News.
The Masungi Geo Reserve Foundation says they were kept in the dark about the DENR's decision to cancel a 2002 agreement with Blue Star Corporation, the firm that developed the site. Speaking to our sister program, News and Views, Ann Dumaliang, managing trustee of Masungi, said they only got wind of the decision during the DENR's press conference. To date, Dumaliang said they are yet to receive the notice, but are prepared to take the DENR to court. In its decision, the DENR canceled the deal with Blue Star, citing illegalities and failure to deliver the 5,000-unit garden cottages housing project. Masungi laments the DENR's action, saying this is detrimental to the preservation of the rock formations in the Geo Reserve. The cancellation of the deal would mean the government takeover of the Masungi, which is now a popular ecotourism destination in Rizal.
To discuss this further, we have with us Ann Dumaliang, Managing Trustee of Masungi Geo Reserve. Good evening to you and welcome to The Big Story. First of all, yes, Ann, I'd like to ask about the houses that were not delivered, because this is the first time it's been revealed to the public that Blue Star is actually engaged in development and of housing.
We have actually had attempts to be transparent around the idea of it coming from a conservation development model. So the presence of Blue Star from a joint venture is coming from a joint venture agreement. And the model, the pioneering model that it represents is called a conservation development, which is a known conservation financing mechanism. And as you know, there are, for these bigger types of developments, also different kinds of zones. For a conservation development, those special zones would then be forest and restoration spaces. And this allegation that nothing was delivered, that seems to be what everyone, or at least what's being put out, no? Or what's being...
What the DNR says.
Yeah, but there is something delivered, no? So land development and the services were there, the utilities are there, the roads are there, and all of this is fully financed by Blue Star as committed in the agreement. Later on, there are options for lots, and this is why it's not as, it's not as overridden by houses as people expected it to be.
What is the relationship between Masungi Geo Reserve Foundation and Blue Star?
Right. So Blue Star is the engineering firm that my dad ran in the area. This is the organization that has a joint venture agreement with the NR back in the 1990s. Masungi Geo Reserve Foundation came out in 2015, 2016. And the reason why I put it up is to have conservation, more conservation financing for the restoration of the place and beyond. So the initiative's intent is really to be able to save up some funds that goes directly into conservation and the advocacy as opposed to distributed as dividends.
I ask because it may be somewhat of a contradiction that you are a, you advocate the preservation of the environment when all along the agreement was to build houses in this reserve. It may be also a contradiction of the DNR actually, but I'm throwing the question to you.
Right. So the conservation development model, if I may expound on it, is actually largely skewed towards conservation. The intent was to have 70% of the land area or more restored, and the remaining area as the housing component of the project, which also intends to be able to support the conservation of the rest of the site. So that has always been the best case scenario for developing the location, and that is precisely what we see has been done. If you look at the very popular photo of what the area looked like in the 1990s and what it looks like in 2016, that was Blue Star's work. No? And we have to come back to the fact that the agreement, again, not a straight contract, the agreement, this collaborative project with the NR is two-pronged. It is housing, but it does also say that we need to ensure maximum preservation and environment conservation of the area.
And if I may ask, we all know where the geopark is, and we've all seen it, if not personally, everywhere on social media. But where are the houses exactly? We understand this is just a 2002 agreement. There's supposed to be 5,000 houses coming out of that 300 hectare. Nasaan yung bahay? Yung mga bahay?
Not on the 300 hectares. No? So if you are to backtrack a little bit, there is a main joint venture agreement before the supplemental agreement called the JVA. We can put it at that. And there are houses that are built in this area. However, that has not,
How many?
hindi pa na-cover yung 5,000 that is supposed to be delivered there, no?
Oo nga po,
And
ilan?
also
Ilan
why
po?
it hasn't jumped to developing the 300 hectares. One thing to note here is when we look at the housing development in the joint venture agreement, how do I put this? This has also been, I kind of lost my thought there already. Would you like to build on it?
Yeah, so there are two agreements, right? The 1997, according to the DENR, who we had here last week on Friday, wala daw issue yung 1997. It's only the supplemental 2002 JVA that they have a problem with, because that was for another 5,000 houses. And from what we also know and what we can see anecdotally, it became a geopark, which is now Masungi Geopark, that we all know and love and we visit, right? We're wondering what happened. Where did the original agreement for that supplemental JVA was supposed to produce 5,000 houses? Instead, we got a geopark. We're just wondering what happened in the interim and how did it end up like that?
Correct, right. So this is where I have to raise that in as much as DNR claims to have delivered their responsibility, they haven't delivered the site free of encumbrances just yet. This is why the project keeps on actually getting pushed back. If you were there in the early 2000s, in the late 2000s rather, you go by the roadside and all of this would be littered with all of these groups that are claiming land. No? So in this area, land syndicates are very prolific and are very, there's an endemic of them there. In fact, no less than the SJVA says that. And this has really hurt the project. This has really hurt their private sector partner. If I may give an anecdote or an example, at this time, we are even paying 100,000 pesos a month since 2016 as rent to one of these groups who are illegally claiming land. And why does this continue to happen? Because even if we approach DNR and ask them to file a case, they refuse to. No, they refuse to do that. And we're now shouldering the burden
Who in
of having to
particular,
protect this land.
who in particular in the DNR refuses to go after these illegal claimants?
We
Who in
have had
particular?
multiple meetings with the regional director, with the undersecretary levels. And ito, no? So, wala. They refuse to do that. We do the case build up. They even refuse to authorize us to file these kinds of cases. My point is, we have tried very hard to stay true to the agreement, to put together all of these laws that people may seem as a contradiction, to the benefit of the environment, and to, stay true to what we are as private sector partners of government.
But it also begs the question, Anne, why didn't you just back out of the JVA? It's not like you were contracted to fix this. This is a joint venture agreement. My understanding of JVAs is at some point, somebody doesn't deliver, the other party doesn't deliver, we can, quote-unquote, break up.
That's right. And, well, the breakup cannot happen without a court order, no? Let's make that clear. But why didn't we do it? Because, honestly, we've really genuinely grown to care for the place. It's beautiful. It's a karst formation. In the area, you have these areas simply quarried out and then turned into flattened subdivisions. That's not what we want to see here. We saw an opportunity to collaborate with government.
But
and
that's
something-
part of your deal, is to really build the houses. That's why I'm raising this contradiction. If you are indeed protecting the environment, why is the plan to build houses? Or you could have said, maybe it shouldn't be. We should not pursue this direction for developing this land, rather conserve it, which you're doing now, and this,
Correct.
the position of the DNR. We don't see that in the process that you said this is not the proper course of action.
Well, the starting point of the agreement is really the terms of reference, no? The terms of reference of the bidding that we won back in the 1990s. And so what we have to deliver is outlined there. That is what we're following. This is not something that we asked for. This is something that the DNR mandated of us. No? And that's why there is a housing component to it. No? And that's also how
if I may
we got
interrupt you, understand that there's selling of the public selling of cottages and land. These are seen on social media. So, is it true?
There are people who have already bought portions of the 1997 area involved. So there are people who already own lands and have been selling as well. No? If I may just go back to the question that you posed a while ago, the move towards something more conservation directed is actually something that the NR also knows. In 2011 to 2013, we started discussions with the regional director of the NR. And this was when we came together with a plan that is more geared towards the conservation of the place and more low-impact activities for the area. So kung babalikan natin the 5,000 hectares, if you look at the TOR of the project, nasa parang the largest cottages na nga would be 60 square meters big, no? So if you put that together, that's less than, it's about 30, 40 hectares if you think about it, no? But like what we said, we are for protecting this area. We are for making sure that this 300 hectares has as limited a development as we can possibly have. And that is why we have those discussions with DNR.
Well, and you did say that you haven't received the 15-day notice yet to vacate the area. That notice coming from the DENR. Let's clarify things. You really haven't received it, or you just haven't acknowledged receipt of that notice? And if so, what legal remedies are you looking to secure?
No, we have not received the notice at all. Please stay vigilant with us on this one. We do not want to reveal too much around our legal steps just yet, but rest assured that we will be sharing these in due place and time.
Okay, very quickly, I forgot to ask this to the DNR last Friday, and so maybe you can help me out. There was also an exchange between this 300 hectares where the geopark sits now and vis-a-vis a 1.5 hectare of land in Dasmariñas or Imus, Cavite called Pueblo Silio. Did that deal push through, and were you guys the ones who initiated that exchange?
No, not at all. You can imagine for my dad during that time, who hasn't even recovered the financing he's dedicated to the project, that was actually quite a blow. To be asked to advance shares of the partner ahead of time and deliver basically land that's actually more valuable. That's also one thing that I noticed in the statements of DNR. They kept on referring to hectares when this is somewhat like comparing land in Quezon versus land in Quezon City, which of course have different values.
No, but who initiated that exchange? And how did it
DNR
arise?
who initiated it. And the COA audits, we have never been involved in those, in fact. It's worth clarifying that the COA audit is on DNR and not on Blue Star or Masungi.
All right, one issue as well. We were told that the 300 hectares of the 2002 agreement are actually owned. The presidential proclamation was made to the Bureau of Corrections, meaning the DOJ is practically the owner of this land. Is that correct?
Yes, this has been an issue as well, no? And if we look at the history of the title, it's actually been titled since the 1950s. And it was only in 2022 that the Bucor got its title over the area, despite many department orders within the NR also showing that the intent and the direction should not be towards that any longer. So even in 2022, we were caught by surprise that there was an affidavit of loss filed, and then in 2 months or less, a title was already issued to the Bucor. We were also kept in the dark when it comes to that.
So in 2002, when you signed, you didn't know that the Bureau of Corrections had the title?
the Bureau of Corrections didn't have a title yet then. I'm sorry, the title came out in 2022 for the Bureau of Corrections.
But did you know that there was a presidential proclamation from way before giving that land to the Bucor?
The presidential proclamation came after the joint venture agreement, this supplemental joint venture agreement, in either 2004 or 2006.
Lastly, I know how much do you generate in revenue from the ecotourism site?
Right. So the
Annually.
revenue generated from the ecotourism site, I got to say, a lot of people tend to think that we generate so much from that. If you compare it to what would be delivered if you develop the land, that's worlds apart. Let me just make that very clear. One. But two, if you look at the revenues of the place, this actually is really just enough to conserve the area. The number of people that we accommodate on a day really depends on what our plans are for the coming 3 months, 4 months, 6 months. At the time, that is the peak season. We do have visitors during the weekends, but the primary intent of the rangers is the maintenance and preservation and the protection of the place. No? So the slots that we open, and we only get to open a few slots, ranges even from 10, 14 slots a day.
So what's the ballpark figure, if you don't mind? Ballpark on an annual basis.
And if you don't mind, I will make my quick computations here now.
Okay.
I have to admit that I haven't been looking at it very much because of advocacy related things, no? And again, these are all available in our financials, which are publicly available as well.
Okay, we'll wait. Is it long?
Yeah.
Don't so distract her in the middle of it.
I wish I had the time to handle more tourism-related things, but we really haven't had a lot of time for it, I have to admit, in recent times.
So we will check your website. It's there.
You will find it there. You will find it with the SEC and the BIR as well. It's public record. Yeah, it is public record.
All right.
But the fee, if anyone wants to compute, is 1,500 to 1,800 per person a day, and each group is 7 to 14 persons. My math is not very efficient at the time.
No worries.
All right. Thank you so much, Ann Dumaliang, Managing Trustee of Masungi Geo Reserve.
And all right, that's I'm going to announce the end of the show. That's it for the big story on this Monday night.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.
Thank you for watching and good night.
Coming up next is Play by Play with Andre Felix and Denise Tan. Welcome back, Denise.
Konnichiwa.
Thank you.
Domo arigato gozaimasu. Just arrived from
Ikaw
Japan.
ba? O si Denise?
Siya parang siya. I feel like it's him who just got back.
Kasi nainggit ako nung nagkikwento sila kanina. They went to Osaka, went to Kyoto. They usually went to Nara Park.
Wow.
Sabi ko, di kayo na. Tapos malamig daw.
Hindi kayo na.
How cold was it?
Mga 3 degrees, but it felt like -2 daw, based on the apps.
Grabe, oo. Nagilo ka na ba kay Boss Ma'am Ses?
Dito mainit eh.
Dito mainit.
Oo. Tingnan mo yung Kenneth Cobon po yan.
Oo nga eh. Inggit nga ako eh.
Diba? Grabe. But thank you once again to the ladies of the big story.
You.
Hope you enjoyed your weekend, and happy Monday to Ses, to Sean, and to Pauline. On Play by Play, we've got the latest NBA scores plus a preview of the Sharks Billiards Association's upcoming Philippine Open. SBA founder Hadley Mariano will join us live in the studio.
And we've got results from a full weekend of volleyball with games in the Spikers Turf and the UAP.
I'm Andre Felix.
And I'm Denise Tan, sitting in for Cheska